Hi, John. How are you today?
Hi, Elliot. I'm fine. You?
I'm good too, thanks. This week, I thought it would be interesting to talk about an order that actually came out late last month from the NCUA, and it related to Live Life Federal Credit Union. I wondered if you saw that order.
Yeah, I did, and I think it's interesting on a couple of levels, right? Obviously, credit unions do get examined, and the oversight is as it is with traditional banks. Always been some question by the AML world, how strong is NCUA? But I think they've shown, certainly in the past decade, that they oversee their members or the regulated entities well. That's one thing. But the second part of it is this consent order. So the C&D relates to some control issues and some systems issues for a credit union that banks marijuana-related businesses. That's not the only reason, but that certainly was something that we both flagged and thought we should spend a couple minutes talking about.
Agreed. And we won't take the time to read everybody the list of consent actions and things that have to be done, but the thing that jumps out when you read them is that this organization, and I think there are others out there, may not have fully assessed the risk of taking on a complex client like an MRB, and therefore may not also have done an internal assessment of whether they had the infrastructure, systems, and capabilities to actually handle it. Another interesting part of the order, separate or in addition to the MRB piece, is there's actually a piece related to MSBs,
right?
And the reference that is in the order is to the FinCEN 2019 directive on illicit activity involving convertible virtual currency. So again, not that there's anything wrong with having customers who use virtual currency or even banking companies that are involved in a virtual currency economy, but understanding the complexities and again, in doing an internal assessment to see if you really know how to handle it, what things you ought to be watching for when the risk alarm should be going off, appeared not to have occurred at this institution.
Right. And there's two other things in here for just all of us as AML professionals. One of the items that they're required to do is to monitor the red flags in one of the other FinCEN advisories, the 2014 one on BSA expectations regarding marijuana-related businesses. Why is that relevant? So whenever FinCEN issues something, whether it's an advisory on human trafficking, on virtual currency, on marijuana-related businesses, there is an unspoken obligation, frankly, that you're doing something with that. I mean, it sounds obvious to us that are in the space, but I think when you're talking to your business lines and have people outside of compliance, when something is issued, what you need to do, this is sort of separate from the consent order, you need to summarize what's in there, get it out to the lines of business and saying, we need to map this to what we currently do. So by telling them that, and the one you mentioned on the advisory on convertible virtual currency and illicit activities such, they want you to do some things with this. So I think that's important as well. And they also say in the order, immediately file SARs, because obviously they felt that wasn't going on, and to immediately stop opening MRB accounts. So, I think, like I said, even though the marijuana-related businesses caught our eye, this is relevant for two reasons. One is credit unions are small, right? Most of them, they're small. So like a small community bank, if you take on complicated products, you have to be able to, oversee them and comply with all the various requirements. And this is a perfect example of that, I think.
I agree. This is I think the order indicated that the institution has $69 million in assets, so modest.
Right.
And so, which means modest resources. And so taking on more complex customers requires a significant commitment to infrastructure, having the right staff and those kinds of things. And so I think that's what that to me, that was what the other big thing to take away from this. But John, I absolutely agree with you. When FinCEN issues guidance, or when you see a consent order like this, you really, it's important for compliance and others to say, what is this telling us? And now let's do a quick gut check and see, do we have these holes? I mean, not a full gap analysis, but if any of this bothers you when you read it about your own institution, then you need to make inquiry.
I agree. And we're not going to leave you hanging. We actually have scheduled for May 27th a webinar on banking marijuana-related businesses. So we'll have a vendor on there that will talk about systems that they have. We'll have practitioners, and we'll give you some great advice, up-to-the-minute advice, because this thing continues to change, obviously, the distinction between marijuana businesses and hemp businesses. But we got all your bases covered. May 27th. Hold the date. We'll send more information as we get closer. Okay.
Thanks, John. Have a great rest of your week and weekend, and we will talk next week.
Take care, Elliot. Stay safe.
Yeah, you too. Bye.